Okay, I'm back. Still at that grocery store, and I do need a camera. I need a camera, not just the iPad, because I'd like to film myself and throughout the day and give more real emotions and more vlogging type stuff, but can't really pull out a 10.9-inch iPad and carry it around, but because today, the last 24 hours really, trying to get just that first video up. I don't know what happened, because I posted those few videos, it's been 2 years, so I knew I wasn't going to be doing a ton of editing, and I didn't do a ton of editing. I did very minimal, so it shouldn't be so difficult. It should not be so difficult. And I don't know what happened. And maybe somebody out there, if you guys have any technical ability, or I don't know, just a little bit more than me, which is like not hard to accomplish, but so the video was really long. Okay, so it was an hour and 45 minutes, but it was recorded on an iPad, so it's 1080p. Okay, so that's not a large file. We're not talking 4K or anything like that. But when it was done, and all it is talking, there's no fanciness to it, but when it was done, it was 9 gigabytes. I wasn't too worried about that. I've had other videos in the past be 9 gigabytes, but I thought that was because I added different things to it, without being cut up or anything. This was just 9 gigabytes, fine. And I put it into LumaFusion, which is the editing software app that you can get on the iPad. And when I put it in there, and I just added that little clip in the beginning of Jordan Peterson, in that little clip, I checked it, and it was only like 200 kilobytes or something, right? But when I then tried to export it, and I even deleted that because this was so confusing to me. So just trying to export my 9 gigabytes back into my photos in order to post it on YouTube, it became 24 gigabytes. And I have no idea why. I don't know. And when I did this in the past, I didn't even check all of this kind of stuff. But it just worked, so fine. But now this was taking 2 hours just to write they call it a movie, right? When you're finished doing some editing. So to write the movie and to send it to my photos, right? And then you send it from the photos into the YouTube. And like I told you, with my goals, Monday is mental. That's the thing that I'm going to be focusing on this year is, getting better at this YouTube stuff. And I'm telling you, this is the kind of stuff I hate. But I've spent all day looking video on Reddit, trying to figure it out. I hate this kind of stuff. I really do. I would rather do 1,000 million things. It's like getting a child to eat vegetables. I hate this kind of stuff. And it makes me really upset. And I really just wanted to throw the iPad on the ground and, ask somebody to drive over it. And that's the thing. I do not like Apple. I do not like Apple at all. I used to have just a Windows, like a little Asus notebook, whatever. Cheap little thing. Cheap, number one. Cheap. Cut, paste, everything so direct. So direct and so easy and so obvious. This machine is expensive. I got it secondhand. It was cheap for me, but it's an expensive machine. It apparently can do these complicated things, but who cares when it can't even do the simple stuff? I don't know. I'm sorry, I'm getting like, but it's been a long 24 hours, and I wanted that video to go out on the 1st. That was my goal. I'm like, wow, I'm already failing. I should just give up, you know, and I know it's like, how can I be such a feather blown over in the wind? But it doesn't feel that way. If, you know, these are simple things for maybe other people, but just getting out of bed, you know, quote unquote, because I'll explain more of that goal later. But it's a lot for me. And so anyway, I just, I've not got very much sleep at all. It was freezing. And I was trying to figure out how to do this stupid thing. And I didn't know if it was because the internet was weak. Like, there's 1,000 things it could be. I finally thought to check the gigabyte thing only because it took so long to write. And anyways, if anybody out there knows why it went from 9 gigabytes to 24 gigabytes in LumaFusion, please let me know. And also, I looked at a bunch of videos on compressing your footage, and you have to put all these apps on, and I get afraid to put apps on that I don't know about. But also, that makes me worry that footage isn't going to be good, and so how to store all of this stuff, and then that gets expensive. Anyway, I was going to say more about that, but I just don't like Apple. I don't like Apple. And that video is still uploading. So I redid everything, and I tried to like dumb it down, and I put it on the lowest settings to like, you know, not even 1080p, like lower. So hopefully it looks okay, but you know, I don't even know if it will still upload. So I don't know if this video will get out either. But I did feel like I failed in some sense, but no, before midnight, you know, although not really midnight where I'm at. So I'm taking midnight from the state over. I was in the YouTube studio and trying to I was done. I was ready to post it. So I feel like, then actually at 11:59 I was in there. Technically 12:59 where I'm at, but like I said, the next state over is an hour ahead of us, or behind us. So, anyways, and this is my second video, so I'm doing a video today too. So let's get to that. That's what today's supposed to be about, and I don't want to go. I'm hoping this will be 15 minutes. So, anyways, so yesterday was Monday, and that was your mental, you know, the 7 paths to peace, right? So 7 different categories in your life that I believe we all have, these 7 different categories, and to live a balanced and thriving sort of life, we need to pay attention to each of them. Sometimes some take a little bit of a backseat, just a little bit at different points in your life, but I don't think any of them should take too much of a backseat at any one time. So anyways, so yesterday, Monday, I'm dedicating that to your mental knowledge, skills, abilities. Mine was YouTube, so I did that yesterday, and I did that all day today. Tuesday is your emotional. So my goal for my emotional is to post a video daily up to 1,000 videos. And I'll tell you why 1,000 in another video, but up to 1,000 videos. So if I just did daily videos, it would take me 2.5 years to reach 1,000. I can do more than one video a day if I want to, but my goal is to just at least do one video a day, which honestly, I mean, that's a huge goal, not even for somebody who's in my situation of just ineptitude in every facet of my life right now. You know, not even for somebody who's down and out. Like that I've heard other YouTubers say it's a lot and you can burn out. And I'm hoping I don't. And maybe not every video is going to be amazing, but you know, there is this one guy. Somebody asked me one time in one of the comments who I watch. I really don't watch I don't watch people religiously. There are some people I continue to go back to. Except there's this one guy that I always seem to go back to. But, you know, I respect him. He does like 3 or 4 videos a day. And he's smart. He's just a smart guy. And so anyways, and I just appreciate his hard work and dedication. So if he can do 3 or 4 videos a day, I could probably do one. But I do know that's a lot. I've heard other big YouTubers say that that's a lot. But the reason why this is under my emotional, and the reason why, yes, that's probably the biggest goal of all of my goals. It's going to take the most. So why emotional? Why is that under your emotions? Because some people are like, well, Sage, you should be going to therapy. You need to really heal, and so on and so forth. And I've heard that, and I've mentioned that in a few videos, and I've told you guys, I've been to counselors. In the last 15 years, I've seen at least 7 counselors. You know, but I wrote just a few notes here so that I wouldn't be a whole hour and a half. You know, the fact of the matter is you can spend all of that, and I'm not saying you, me. I can spend all of that time. And I'm not saying counseling is bad, and I'm not saying I won't do it in the future. But there came a point where I'm just not moving forward. I'm not moving past it. I'm paying this person money, which is a big deal for me. And what are they doing? I mean, they're just sitting there listening and maybe regurgitating back to me. So I tried to find a counselor who would be a little more forceful, like that clip of Jordan Peterson. That sounds pretty harsh, doesn't it? But it's exactly true, and I need to hear it. You know, you can do that and continue going and continue talking and talking about the past. I'm not even talking about my childhood per se. I went through a rough childhood, okay? What brought me down wasn't necessarily my childhood. There were some foundational things that presented and handicapped me in this situation. But even just the thing that happened 15 years ago, like, it's 15 years, and I'm going to just keep going and paying somebody and talking to them about it and talking to them, and it just wasn't getting me where I needed to go. And I have in every category, I am so low in every category: physical health, financial health, social, emotional, mental, spiritual. You know, I'm so destroyed in every way. I'm going to try to find another clip for you if I can find it. But I'm so destroyed in every way, I don't...
I'm getting to a place where I wrote a whole book on trauma, right? And where you go from here, and the importance of our childhood stories. I think those stories are really important to peel back and uncover, right? And I think the challenge remains is whether I'm working with people in marginalized communities. I spent my whole career lost everything. Everything. I've sat with people like you guys whose marriage is in ash and you're deciding, are we going to do this? Or are we going to, like, whatever, what are we doing next, right? But every single time I've sat with somebody and they're sitting in the trauma, we always land on this one core question. What are we going to do now? I want to really challenge y'all to not go back to, well, when he was 5, he experienced this. And I didn't have touch, and so I experienced this. Because where we are now is you both committed to being in a marriage that's here right now.
Right.
Right? And so those stories might play into why our nervous system responds the way it does with those GPS pins I talk about all the time. Right? It might light me up, or it might do this or do this. But every day, I have a choice as to what this day is going to look like. Period. And I might have to practice for as much as a decade to turn the corner on some things, but I am here now. Okay.
Right.
So I want to honor and know that those past stories are there, but I want to spend the bulk of my energy in the present moving forward. Is that cool? Does that make sense?
Yeah.
Where we are right now. Because here's why. When we live in the right now, you have to take ownership of what happens next. It can't go back to, well, they did this.
Well, let me read some of this to you because I wrote it and I didn't want this video to go past 15 minutes, and here I am. I'm just going to read it. You know, how long will we pay someone to talk about it? How long? You know? Sometimes oh my gosh, I think the video actually uploaded. Sometimes we must just move forward, even bloody and dirty, until we can get on solid ground, and maybe with a roof over our head and some food in our belly, and heaven forbid, people around that care and are safe. Then we can deal with the depth. And I don't have any of that. I don't have anything. And dealing with the depth, like, I really think the best thing, even if I'm bloody and dirty, the best thing is, like Jordan Peterson said, just clean the socks out of your drawer. Even how pathetic that sounds, you know? And when I first put that clip up, sorry, I don't want to cry, I'm in public. When I first put that clip up, you know, didn't realize that he said, you know, it's a lack of humility. You know, to start so low and to do it public too. So, great. So, anyway, I feel like I need something else, and then I can deal with, I just need a little bit. I just need a little bit of momentum, a little bit of success, a little bit of something, at least in one area. And then when my life has a little bit of foundation, a little bit of flourishing, I can deal with this emotional stuff. And I'd have the money to pay the person. But I don't find counselors that just, sometimes you need somebody who just listens. So I don't want to say that, but for me, I don't think it's effective. I mean, at the beginning, because I want them to understand my story, but then I want them to kick me in my butt. So, but just lovingly. Anyway, I'm going to continue reading. Let me put it this way. Someone who has been in a terrible car accident or whatever, what does the physician do first? Hand feed them a 5-course meal, get them out of bed running a marathon, remind them of all the tasks required to live a daily life and what they're not doing right now because they're incapacitated? No, a physician doesn't do that. Are all of those things good? A 5-course meal? I mean, running a marathon, you know, completing living daily life, yes, they're all good. Are they too heavy for the severely weak who's just been in a major turmoil? Yeah, it's too heavy. Sometimes you just need a little bit of effort, lots of rest, and an environment that will give you some foundation and security and nourishment. You know, just a little bit of protective walls. I don't want to say that. A little bit of foundation. I don't know what other word to use. And these examples that I've given you have been physical symbols. But so much of this is relational, emotional, mental, and spiritual. And you know, that's something I really want people to know, because they always think, oh, the homeless, feed the homeless, house them, you know, spend millions of billions of dollars, and it's not going to work, because that's not the only problem. If at all, the main problem. Somebody's here now. I'm going to try to keep going. These examples I've given you have been physical symbols, but so much of it is relational, emotional, mental, and spiritual. People have told me to take some medication. People need to make their own choices, but I've hated pills since I was a young child, like truly hated pills. And I don't care if it's a vitamin or whatever, but mostly medications too, because I believe it does bad things to your insides. But, you know, everybody needs to make their own choice, but it does not make sense to me to rely on a pill when I have so many obvious inhibitors all around me in my life. I mean, every area is just ground zero. Every category, each one of these 7 categories, ground zero. Twin towers, I mean, just totally obliterated. How about working on the obvious, like to me, okay? And you know, I know everybody's got their own thing, but like physically, let's say, if you're really overweight, maybe you need some outside things to help you, and I understand that. But to me, you eat healthy, you exercise, you do all these other things first, the obvious things, eating healthy, exercising, drinking water, you know, all the obvious things first. You put that effort in, because it's just not the most effective process to rely on the pill. Most people who do that, to rely on pills or outside influences, they yo-yo, they go back, they get even heavier the next time. You know, we always want a quick fix.
The first thing I do as a clinician, if someone comes to me and says they're depressed, is ask myself a question. Well, what does this person mean by that? So I have to find out, because maybe they're not depressed, maybe they're hyper anxious, or maybe they're obsessional. There's various forms of powerful negative emotion. So they need to be differentiated. But then the next question you have to ask is, well, are you depressed? Or do you have a terrible life? Or is it some combination of the two? So if you're depressed, as far as I can tell, you don't have a terrible life. You have friends, you have family, you have an intimate relationship, you have a job or a career, you're about as educated as you should be given your intelligence, you use your time outside of work wisely, you're not beholden to alcohol or other temptations, you're engaged in the community in some fundamental sense, and all that's working. Now, if you have all that and you're feeling really awful, you're either ill or you're depressed. And so then sometimes there's a biochemical route to that, treatment of that. My experience has been as a clinician is if you're depressed, but you have a life and you take an antidepressant, it will probably help you a lot. Now, maybe you're not depressed. Exactly. You just have a terrible life. What does that look like? You have no relationship. Your family's a mess. You've got no friends. You've got no plan. You've got no job. You use your time outside of work, not only badly, but destructively. You have a drug or alcohol habit or some other vice, pornography addiction. You are completely unengaged in the surrounding community. You have no scaffolding whatsoever to support you in your current mode of being or your move forward. And then as a therapist, well, you do two things. Well, if it's depression per se, well, like I said, there's sometimes a biochemical root, a nutritional root. There's ways that can be addressed. It's probably physiological if you're, at least in part, if you're depressed but you have an okay life. Sometimes it's conceptual. And for the people who just have a terrible life, it's like, okay, you have a terrible life. Well, let's pick a front. How about you need a friend, like one sort of friend.
So sometimes depression is this heavy cloud that makes it hard to even make a single step towards it. You said isolate, make a friend.
Oh man, sometimes
the first step is extremely difficult.
Oh my God, sometimes it's way worse than that. Like I had clients who were so depressed they literally couldn't get out of bed. So what's their first step? It's like, can you sit up once today? No. Can you prop yourself up on your elbows once today? Like you scale back the dragon till you find one that's conquerable that moves you forward. There's a rubric for life. Scale back the dragons till you find one conquerable, and it'll give you a little bit of gold, commensurate with the struggle. But the plus side of that, because you think that, God, that's depressing. You mean I have to start by sitting up? Well, you do if you can't sit up. But the plus side of that is it's the Pareto distribution issue, is that aggregates exponentially increase. And failures do too, by the way, but aggregates exponentially increase. So once you start the ball rolling, it can get zipping along pretty good.
We always want a quick fix instead of disciplining ourselves, instead of making the efforts that we need to make to be able to have the power in our own hands, to be the captain of our own lives. And sometimes those changes and those things that we need to do are small before we can be maybe normal and do bigger changes, and and then one day be the captain of our own life. Sorry, I was on a roll, but when somebody's sitting in the same room, I just feel so weird. And I don't actually like people knowing that I'm doing this. Okay. So what happened 15 years ago now happened in a perfect storm. I had just completed college, and I ended up taking a trip around the world. And I was only going to be out there for a year, but I was out there for about 2.5 years. And it was incredible. It was amazing. I had been able to just check off so many things that I've always wanted to do, so many goals, so many aspirations, so many things that I've always wanted to do. I could just check them all off. And I just felt so empowered in my own life. I felt so resourceful because I did it on a shoestring budget. That's a story for another time, but I did a lot of things that it gave me such a sense of competence in who I was as an individual. And when I came back, I was presented with probably my biggest goal or my biggest dream, you could say. The thing that I wanted more than anything in my life, all of my life up until that point. And it was my biggest weakness. Like, if you imagine, like, you guard yourself and you set up all these parameters to make sure that you have this stronghold, in this world of battle. And I tried to make sure I was good in so many areas in my life and just as put together as possible, but this one area was my Achilles heel. It was my Achilles heel. And I'm not saying at all that I was perfect or impenetrable in any other way. I absolutely am a human being, but I was striving to be as good as I could. But this one area just was the biggest hardship and weakness for me. And it was presented to me as something that I could accomplish and overcome and have for the first time in my life. And I had wanted it more than anything, and so I dove in, and it took me out. It obliterated me entirely, every part of me, everything. And so I got some guy sitting down there, and I'm about to start crying. The thing is this happened right when I got back from traveling. You know, I had graduated from college and I left. I came back 2.5 years later. All of my friends were gone. So my social stronghold was gone. My financial stronghold was very low, but that was the only thing that I had something, had something to squawk about. My emotional, I was just fine. Spiritual, I was good. Mental, I was good, but spiritual, I had this congregation and this group of, like-minded single young individuals, because this is my 20s, and all of that was gone because I had kind of hit that threshold of passing into my 30s, and so it wasn't the same. I didn't have that. I didn't have ecclesiastical leaders around me constantly because those classes had already been come and gone. I didn't know exactly what I wanted to do at that point. I knew I wanted to write a book, but wasn't really in my wheelhouse, but I did try. That's kind of it. If these 7 categories, if you're low in 1 or 2 or 3 or all, but even just 1 or 2 or 3, and something happens, something big happens, like for example, if you're not physically up to par and, an illness that's racking the whole world comes about, you're going to be the one down and out first, Now we've got all this inflation and everything else, and if your finances weren't in order before this, huge hit, Now let's say you don't have your physical and you don't have your finances, and let's say you go through a divorce, because a lot of people went through a divorce during 2020. I'm trying not to say the key words because it's dumb YouTube, but so now your emotional's gone, your mental's gone. The divorce might have hurt you spiritually. Your finances are gone, your social is gone. It's like one thing can tweak all of it, or if 3 of them are low, your whole life gets turned upside down pretty quickly if the enemy's at the door. And the enemy has always known this Achilles heel for me. And I worked on it all my life. I know I'm like double the time that I said I wanted to be, but I'm going to give you just this one little story. When I was traveling around the world, I decided London was one of the last places I went before I came stateside again. And I decided to live there rather than just traveling through. I thought, I'm going to live here for a while. So I lived there for about 9 months. Randomly met this family. They invited me to come stay with them. The mom and I became really good friends. The children and I were just like, I love them. And the dad was awesome too. And but this Achilles heel started coming up for me. Something I worked on all my life. And I was praying and I was fasting and I was like, Heavenly Father, help me to be better. I want to be better. I want this category to be better. I want it to be a strength, not a weakness. I want it, And the impression that came to me is, Sage, look at where you've been and look at where you are. On a percentage scale, let's say you're at about 80%. Let's say you've worked on this and you're about 80%. Is that not enough? And I really thought about that and I was like, wow. Yeah, if I could maintain 80%, I didn't feel like I was totally at 80%, but that was the impression, the spiritual impression that came to my mind. And I thought, I can, which is amazing because I'm a perfectionist. I want 100%. But I thought, no, especially in this category, just to reach 80% is like, not category, but in this particular part of my life. To reach 80% is huge. And I could be okay with that. And I was doing really good. But when it was presented a year or two later, I want to say a year later, and it just seemed so right. It seemed like just another goal, that I had on my vision board, like that I could literally just be like, wow, that just came to me. So I jumped at it and I lost. Anyways, what JP said on that short clip yesterday and this clip today, if I'm able to find it, the clip today about not looking to the past, but looking to the future. Do something, that's all. Just do something. Take responsibility for your choices today and move forward. I can't afford anyways to pay somebody to just listen to me and not have progress and continue talking about this deep hole when I'm already so weak. Like, visually, if you can visualize this, being in a car accident, going to the hospital, you need an IV, you can't even eat. Somebody trying to give you a 5-course meal, I can't even eat. Look at my life. So I just need a little bit of a foundation, a little bit of momentum. I just need to do something. And I need to look forward. And then when I'm stronger and things are more congruent, maybe I can go back and heal, and then I'll really be fast forwarded. I understand that. But so the video a day to get to 1,000 videos is just, why that? Why YouTube? Why it's just, it's the only thing that's on my mind. It's the only thing that I can seem to choose to do and say yes to. So I just don't have any other answer than that. It's just the only thing. I don't know why, and I don't know if that's right, but my mind is so fogged. So if that's the only thing that I can have in my head, then that's just what I have to do. And then hopefully that'll make me strong enough to do some other things along the way. So the video a day and reading the scriptures daily are the two biggest goals for me. Those are the two that I'm really going to strive for. And that's all I can do. So whether it makes sense or not. Anyway, 40-minute video. Sorry about that. But I hope you guys have figured out how to go into your settings, and you can go down into your settings right at the bottom of the video. It's that wheel that's kind of got little spokes on it, right? Push that, and then it will give you, I can't remember what it says. I think it's like speed. But it'll give you, just read the options there and push all the options if you have to, but you can speed it up where I'm talking at 1.25 or 1.5 or even 2 times the speed. You know, put me on in the background while you do the dishes, or, you know, whatever you do. I appreciate you being here. I didn't say that in the video yesterday. Let me leave you with that. I'm so grateful for the people who are still here. I'm very grateful for everything that you guys have said in your comments. Like I said, I don't know how many of you read the description of the video that I tried to post yesterday, which isn't being posted until today, but I literally haven't even gotten into my account until yesterday, when I lost all that footage and everything just kept going downhill. I didn't look, because it's like facing failure, which is just another failure. So I just didn't look, and I appreciate you guys for caring and being so considerate and going the long haul and being patient. And, you know, those comments, I've read a few of them today and I was crying, and I really appreciate it. It kind of baffles me how strangers can be so kind. So I really appreciate you guys, and, you know, hopefully I can be better this time. I really hope so. I don't know what else I'm gonna do, so I really hope so. Talk to you later.